Hi and welcome back to Tech It Out. Well, I finally managed to get my hands on another Enermax 360 liquid cooler. If you saw my last video, the one I bought from Amazon was a complete fail and I had to send it back. This one I've taken a risk with and I've bought it from eBay. The unit has come through, I have had a look at it, I've checked it out. There is a small amount of damage on the fins, but apart from that it seems okay. I've had it up and running. Seems to be no leaks at all from the pump, which is where most of the reported leaks seem to have come from. The base plate is in good condition. I've given that a clean off with some isopropyl and it seems to be all okay. Now it does come with the 3 fans, of course. If you remember from the last video, the fans weren't with the unit that I got, neither were the fittings. So apart from that and it leaking, it was completely useless. This one is complete. It even comes with the little extension here, the 3-part extension. I won't need that for this because I have a hub on the Fantex case that I can use to actually have all the fans running at the same time. That said, I'm not going to be using 3 fans. Now the case can take 3 fans, but I have a Blu-ray player. I know, it's old school, but I have a lot of old Blu-rays which I like, lots of films, and I just like using it, so I don't really want to take it out. I don't want to lower it down in the slots because it looks a bit silly down lower. So I'm just going to take 1 fan out and run it on 2 fans. The other thing, of course, is these fans are just standard fans, and the fans I have in the case are the RGB fans. So the first thing I need to do is to take these fans off. I've loosened some of the screws already, so I can just lift these off, and they'll come in handy, no doubt, for some other project in the future. And I think I need to loosen some screws on here still to take this one off. And I can show you quickly the other side. One thing about these fans that come with it, I have to say, they do have these rubber mounts to help stop the vibration, which is very good. I'll be using those screws, so I can show you now on the other side. And you can see there's a little ding in the fin itself, but there's no leak and no damage to the actual water course, just the actual fins in between that help with the cooling. Otherwise it's in pretty much perfect condition. A little bit of dust, not a lot, and as I said, the actual heatsink itself in very good condition. So now I have that ready, what I'm going to do is get the PC, the quince bladed, and bring it to the desk, start taking the fans out, take the heatsink off, and then start fitting this. I've already done some runs checking for temperatures with both Cinebench and the editing software that I use, and once I've put all this together I'll run some more benchmarks with this, and then we can compare the temperatures using this to the temperatures using the Noctua heatsink and fan, which I must admit I had no trouble with whatsoever. It's been absolutely fine. Maximum temperatures I can tell you in advance that I had using that, and the full load was 72. The normal temperatures are a little bit lower than that, but we'll come to that a little bit later. So let's get the PC onto the bench and start stripping it down. Now before I go any further, the first thing I want to do is to plug in the CPU fan header, which is located just here. Make sure the pins are in the right place. Catch the fan before it falls. Just place it up there out of the way, it's just resting on the heatsink there, so it's a bit unstable. So the CPU header now, the hub is fed by that. The other header there you can see there is going to be for the pump on the water cooler itself. So let's get that. So let's see if it'll fit. And yes, indeed, it does seem to fit perfectly. I do have a wire here which is a little bit in the way, but I can move that, and then I can screw this into place, and then I can put the fans on the top, and then we can complete the actual installation by putting the heatsink on. So let's just screw this radiator into its proper place. So as you can see, it more or less fits perfectly. So now comes the fitting of the fans again, so replacing the fans in place. I'll do the wiring a little bit later. It looks a little more tidy. Got one there. And the second, turn it around so the wiring is in the right place, is going to go here. So they'll be screwed in now, and then it's just the heatsink itself. Now I'm going to use the screws that came with the old fans, because I know they're the right length. And I'll be back once I've done this, and we'll look at putting the heatsink on, and then we'll be booting up. Okay, so now the fans are back in place and they're all tightened in. One slight problem is that with the heatsink here, there's one screw on the fans that you can't get at, but there are three hold it in nice and firmly, so I'm not so worried about that. The other thing is, you may have noticed I had one fan the wrong way up. I have switched that over, so it is actually blowing outwards instead of inwards now. So that's done. Next thing then is to apply the thermal paste. Now, you see lots of people doing lots of things with thermal paste, but I still believe the best way of actually doing this is to put the 4 dots on the 4 actual cores of the CPU, and then fill in between with another 4, and then one in the center. So that's what I'm going to do now. So in essence, you end up with 9 actual dots. Just spread it out a little bit. Just make sure I got all the cores. And as you saw when I took off the heatsink, it was very well actually spread out when the pressure is put on it. So just wipe that a little bit off. So now we come to the fitting of the heat spreader itself. This will only go one way, because you've got the wider fittings this side, narrower fittings this side. So I'm trying to do this nice and carefully. Shake the workbench a little there, sorry about that. There's 3. Take your time with this, you don't want to cross thread anything. And then there's 4. And then what I always do is I tighten diagonally 2 or 3 turns each screw. So that one's now completely firmly tightly in place. So is that one. So is that one. So is that one. Again, you don't want to over tighten anything. You'll end up damaging things, breaking things, and you just do not want to do that. So that's all that right. I will probably put a little tie on these to tie them up a little bit when I tidy things up and do the wiring as well in the back. and tidy that up. Last thing then is to plug in the pump. Which is there, like that. That's now ready. So it's just a bit of aesthetics now, tidying up the pipes, tidying up the wires, and then we can boot up for the first time, and then we can check the temperatures and see exactly what we've got. Okay, so I've moved a few things around. I actually turned the radiator around because the pipes were a bit crushed up in the corner there, and I've added the third fan back in just to make it a fair comparison. Now, having done this, I've actually left it for about 3 weeks since the beginning of this video, just to give it a fair crack and leave it settle in and see how it performed. Unfortunately, I'm very disappointed once again with this cooling system. I admit the full-size cooler heat spreader plate is excellent. It fits perfectly and I'm sure it absorbs the heat very well. But the system itself is, well, this one is rubbish. And from what I've read online, there is an innate problem with these. It's actually idling, or has been idling, at about 60 degrees. It's currently down to about, no, it's just gone back up, look, to 57 degrees. And the under load temperature rises to 85 degrees plus. Now, that is in no way a good thing. And in fact, on occasions, just idling, I've seen it over 70 degrees. So I'm not going to risk my system with this. I'm going to take it out. And as I said, there have been some reports of a particular problem. And to see that problem, we're going to have to strip it down. I've also pinged Enermax with this problem and asked them for a comment. So we might get a comment back from them as well. For now though, this is the end of this system with the Enermax cooler in it. I'll make an update video when I get a reply from Enermax, if it comes, or barring that, I'll make another video with a teardown of the system to show you exactly what has gone wrong. But for now though, thank you for watching.